Dylan! You son of a bitch.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Backtrack Cinema. In this video, we'll be going through my top 10 80s action films. So it's time to start some action, guys. Get your popcorn, get a drink, get comfy, and let's talk some 80s action.
Stick around.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason. You're watching Backtrack Cinema. This is where we talk movies of the past that you know and love. And before we get to my ranking of my top 10 80s action films, we have done my top 10 80s slashers, and we're going to be working up to our top 50s video of top 50s 80s movies. So you want to stick around for that. But comment down below. Let me know what your top 80s action films are, and we'll talk some action. And when it comes to action, guys, I love the horror genre. The horror genre is like my favorite, but action and horror are so close. I love action almost just as much as I love horror, if not a little bit more. They're two genres I absolutely love, so I had to do a video like this. So coming in at number 10 is Bloodsport. I absolutely love Bloodsport. Bloodsport's one of those great martial arts films of the 80s. I mean, put Jean-Claude Van Damme on the map, and it's probably my favorite Van Damme movie. The fight action set pieces are great. The final fight with Chun-Li is awesome. And Chun-Li, you get a good villain. You get some good characters laid throughout this. You get some good humor. And I like the real big setup of the training sequences with his Shidoshi and that backstory and montages that you get throughout this film. They tell a lot in a short amount of time, which is really nice. And then you get a great score. You get a great 80s score that's really awesome, that is a product of its time. Like, this movie does really feel like the 80s score going on. Great stuff, Bloodsport. Coming in at number 9 is Death Wish 3.
You can't have both of us. Let me.
Love me some Death Wish 3. This was my gateway into Charles Bronson, and what made me a fan of Charles Bronson. I love this film. This is a shut your brain off film. Shut your brain off and let's watch Charles Bronson take out the trash. I love how he sets these traps for all these gang members. It's hilarious. It's got some good one-liners, but you finally get a villain for this character of Paul Kersey. They set up this gang member who's a pretty good villain, who's a bit more fleshed out than other villains we've gotten in thugs in the previous Death Wish movies. And this one goes for over the top. That third act is balls to the walls, absolute freaking crazy. A war zone in the streets, man. And he's out there with this freaking big Brownie machine gun wiping people out. And this gun he has, Wildley, the 475 Magnum, is a character in its own right. Death Wish is awesome. You just have a fun, good time with Death Wish. Coming in at number 8 is Lone Wolf McQuade.
Would you do that to me, Texas Ranger?
Yeah, Lone Wolf McQuade is awesome, man. I love Lone Wolf McQuade. This is been my favorite Chuck Norris film ever since I was a kid. One thing when you watch this movie, it's got that spaghetti western, you know, the old good, bad, and the ugly kind of feel to it. And one thing that does that is that score done by Ennio Morricone, who did those old spaghetti westerns. Great score in this film. I love the character of McQuade, this Texas Ranger, this lone wolf Texas Ranger who only wants to work alone. And Chuck Norris goes on this little character arc of working with people. And at the end of it, you know, it's a team that defeats the enemy or defeats the bad guys. It's a team that does it, and not just him, right? And I love that little character arc in the movie. And this was kind of like the film that eventually became the Walker Texas Ranger series that Chuck Norris did, which is a great series. I used to love watching that series. This movie has some great action set pieces. It's got some pretty good tension laced throughout, and the build up to the final fight between David Carradine and Chuck Norris, who apparently didn't like each other, at least back then, did not like each other. So that end fight, you're seeing a lot of realism there, I think. And it's a great fight, man. Two guys who fight completely different, and it's awesome, but it's the build up. You know, they almost get into a fight earlier in the film.
Boy,
boys are just having a little fun.
You want to join the fun?
There's a buildup and a buildup, and the hatred starts feeding both these guys. And at the end, it's like a little old spaghetti western shootout at the end. You know, they take their belts off, they're looking each other in the eyes, focusing on their faces. And man, the fight this is one of my favorite fights of all time. It's scrappy, dirty, raw, in your face kind of fight. So I highly suggest that you guys check out Lone Wolf McQuade. Coming in at number 7 is Robocop.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.
I love Robocop, directed by Paul Verhoeven. You know, I love some of his work, you know, him doing Basic Instinct and Total Recall, Starship Troopers. So I've liked his body of work for the most part. And I love me some sci-fi action. I absolutely love when action and sci-fi collide. Just two interesting genres, you put them together, they just fit so well. And one of the best villains, man. I love Clarence Boddicker, played by Kurtwood Smith. The one-liners in this movie, he's relentless, he's funny, and so good at being bad. Like, he is freaking bad in this, man. He's a badass dude in this.
See, I got this problem. Cops don't like me, so I don't like cops.
And the practical effects, the action, everything is fantastic in this film. The themes of this almost Frankenstein, hitting those Frankenstein kind of themes with Murphy, you know, dying on the job, and Murphy becoming this experiment where he's this machine and man, but he starts having these memories of who he was. So it's kind of like Frankenstein, where he's been put together, but he can't remember who he was or what he is. And I love that part of the story. There's some religious overtones, like when he's getting shot to death and his partner comes at his feet. It's kind of like Mary at the cross with Jesus, and where at the end, you know, where Robocop looks like he's walking on water. This is all done on purpose. There's some nice religious overtone shots in this that I really like. And so many one-liners in this movie. I can't count how many freaking one-liners there are in this movie.
Bitches leave.
Ah, fuck you!
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
I mean, me and my buddies, there were two movies that every weekend we would watch, even if they was just on the background. Robocop and The Crow. We'd watch those movies again and again and again. So yeah, I love Robocop. Robocop's awesome. Coming at number 6 is Die Hard. Now I realize this one would be on a lot higher on a lot of people's lists, but for me, it sits here because there's this other films I just love so much more. But man, how do we go wrong with John McClane? Great action hero, a really grounded action hero, someone we can relate to, because he when he fights, it's out of pure raw determination and survival. And Alan Rickman knocks out of the park as the villain of Hans Gruber. This was the style of action film that's been repeated so many times and imitated, but no one has ever come close to the original Die Hard. That one location, one setting, one man all alone trying to take out the bad guys. Great stuff here. Great action, a great pace to the film, and a great heart underneath it all. Like having that tension between him and his wife at the beginning. And, you know, him coming to terms saying, I am sorry, telling Officer Powell there that, find my wife, tell her I'm sorry. And he puts that male ego, his stubbornness, his pride. He sets it aside and says, I should have been more supportive. And all this kind of stuff that just gives it a really, really great heart to this film that I think is overlooked. It's definitely underrated in that sense that it has a great heart to this film. I said this on my review, it's not a Christmas movie for me, but if it is for you, that's awesome. But Die Hard sits at number 6. Coming in at number 5 is Lethal Weapon.
Do you really want to jump? Do you want to? Well, then that's fine with me. Come on.
Let's do it, asshole. Let's
Wait a
do
minute.
it.
What?
I want to do it. I want to do it.
What do you mean?
I love Lethal Weapon, directed by Richard Donner. Richard Donner has done so many great movies, and this is just one of his best for my money. Written by Shane Black, which you can tell this was written by Shane Black. He just has that certain style, the way he uses humor in the dialogue. And this is your movie, the buddy cop movie that everything's compared to. Whenever you do a buddy cop movie, you're compared to Lethal Weapon. And Lethal Weapon also used the blueprint of Dirty Harry. Riggs being a very kind of Dirty Harry kind of character. And there's even scenes in this that you could see that are right from Dirty Harry, like when he talks to the guy off the roof, he jumps off the guy with the roof. Is a similar scene in Dirty Harry that does this. And Shane Black even said, we used Dirty Harry as the blueprint. Danny Glover and Mel Gibson are just so great together. Seeing this relationship where they kind of not like each other to absolutely being the best of friends by the end of the movie is fantastic. It has great action set pieces, great humor. I mean, Mel Gibson brings his humor to this character, but this brokenness to this character I absolutely love, where he's in a state of grieving. He's got a death wish because what happened to his wife. And the only thing that's keeping him alive is just doing his job as a cop, his duty as a cop. I absolutely love that part of the story. And it's just that character development of Martin Riggs, the journey he goes on from being suicidal to not wanting to take his life anymore. He's got something to live for at the end of the movie. Fantastic. Great ending fight scene in this. You know, with Mel Gibson and Gary Busey squaring off.
What do you say, Jack? Would you like a shot at the title? Don't mind if I do.
Again, it's a scrappy, muddy, dirty kind of fight. You know what I mean? It's shot really up close. And this two tough guys going at it, man. Two tough guys going at it in their character, I mean. And Gary Busey, just another standout villain, you know what I mean? Just, you know, the quiet type, but, you know, this is a presence to him, you know? And talk about a guy who hates Christmas.
Goddamn Christmas!
I always find that funny. If you're having stressed on the holidays, just play this clip.
Goddamn Christmas! Goddamn Christmas! Goddamn Christmas!
But Lethal Weapon is fantastic. I mean, I watched this movie so many times. I just absolutely love Lethal Weapon. All right, guys, we're up to the top 4. These could all be interchangeable. These next 4 movies I'm about to talk about, these are like Desert Island. Don't ever wipe these movies out of existence. I need these movies in my life every day, and I had to choose. These were very hard to place, but in a way kind of easy too, which I'll talk about. But yeah, this was, if you have movies like this on your list, let me know, because these are so interchangeable depending on the mood I'm in. Coming in at number 4 is Aliens. Man, I love Aliens. Aliens is such a great film. Sigourney Weaver knocks it out of the park with Ripley in this. Ripley is a badass. She's one of the greatest female characters we've ever gotten. I absolutely just love the journey she goes on in this. Like how broken she is at the beginning of this movie, and she doesn't want to go back out there. It's like kind of like this Vietnam vet who has to go back into the war. That's the only way they're going to heal. And she goes back into it, and she just becomes a badass in this. But it's all the other characters in this movie that are so great, from Frost to Vasquez, Hudson and Hicks, and, you know, even the Sergeant Apone. Just amazing characters in this film, and how they all unite at the end, kind of. How they all unite at the end and they do their duty, and it just, the action just freaking goes into high gear. And that's the thing with James Cameron films. There's a certain pace he goes with, and by the time he puts the gas pedal on for the action, he doesn't let it off. Just great stuff here. And I like how, you know, Ripley had a daughter who died, and, you know, when she finds Newt, it's like the second chance at motherhood. And Ripley's just got this very maternal way about her. And there's this parallel with the aliens, you know, one mother facing off against the queen mother. It's like this mother versus mother fight at the end, right? And both protecting their young, so to speak. And it's awesome. It's absolutely fantastic to watch that end sequence. I absolutely love Aliens. Oh, man, we could talk here all day about Aliens, man. Coming in at number 3 is Predator.
You one ugly motherfucker.
Hard to think that Predator is at number 3, because that's how good these movies are, man. But Predator is awesome. This is the ultimate movie to watch with the guys. Get some pizza, get some beer, call your friends over, call the guys over, and watch some Predator. It's the ultimate man's movie. Not that the ladies can't enjoy this movie too. I mean, my wife loves this movie. She watches it with me all the time. So the ladies can definitely enjoy things in this movie as well. I know you love it, ladies. All their shirts off, the muscles, you love it. You know you love it.
The muscles.
But what this movie does so well is it takes several genres and just mixes them up into this great blend of action and sci-fi, and even a bit of, there's even a point where it's a bit of horror, like almost slasher like when the Predator's stalking each one of these guys. I mean, the gore is there, the action there, the humor is there, but it knows when to put the humor in and when not to put the humor in. That's what this movie does so well. There's a great point in this movie after Jesse Ventura is killed and they're trying to look for the Predator because they just unloaded on him with all this shootout battle into tearing the freaking jungle apart. And then Poncho comes back and he says, "No blood, no bodies, we hit nothing." And then that climbing tension music comes up and Arnold just sits up and he's got that look on his face. Like, he's legitimately freaking like, what the hell? He's like legitimately scared. The movie knows to stop being cheesy and start getting serious from that point on. And I love that. I really believe this is where Arnold stepped up his acting game. I really feel like this is, at this time, this was his best performance. Other than the original Terminator, because the original Terminator was a role that was just perfect for him. But as far as like really focusing on his acting, I really think Dutch as a character, he nailed it. I think this is a overlooked performance by Arnold. I really like his performance in this. It's very subtle. He's still got that Arnoldness to him. Arnold-isms. He's still got the Arnold-isms to him, but I think his performance was really good. And all the other side characters, like, what a team, man. And like Bill Duke as Mac, just fantastic, man. That one scene where he's talking to the moon after Jesse Ventura dies, like Blaine dies, and he's like doing that, you know, that monologue. Fantastic with that great music behind it. The music in this is absolutely awesome. It just gets you jacked. I just love the real tribal drumming and everything to it, like dun, 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 dun. It just gets you in that freaking mood, man. And you can listen to this on its own. It's great just to rock it out in your freaking car. Love the music to this. Predator is awesome. I could go on all day, man. Coming in at number 2 is The Terminator.
Come with me if you want to live.
Man, The Terminator, I watched so much as a kid. I absolutely love The Terminator. And I prefer the first movie here. I just love that more darker tone. I mean, it really does feel like a horror film. I know there's a great debate. Is it a horror film? It's not. It's another one that's a blend, man. It's got sci-fi, action, and a blend of horror to it. I mean, when he goes into that police station, that's a freaking murder spree, man. And shot so well, the way he just goes in there and just freaking wipes everyone out. I mean, if the Terminator went in there with an axe, I think people would be saying this is a slasher film. You know what I mean? Always up for debate, that argument. Is it a horror? Is it action? It's definitely action, but it's definitely horror too to me. It's like a really good balance of everything. It's what's so great about this movie. And the perfect role for Arnold Schwarzenegger. He plays the Terminator to perfection. I can't imagine anyone playing the T-800 the way he did. Just fantastic stuff. And this one's just all about the story. Such a great story, such a great concept of, in the future, machines have taken over the world, so they decide to fight one battle, and it would be in the past. By sending the machine back to kill the mother of the leader of the resistance, and sending a protector, a soldier, to protect the leader of the resistance, his mom, so he can be born. It just, all the time travel stuff in it is just fantastic. And then when you add this little love story into it.
I came across time for you, Sarah. I love you. I always have.
Not just a love story, just to have a sex scene or something. The sex scene actually is a plot device. It actually means something. Reese ends up becoming the father of John Connor. And that's just great storytelling to me. It's just another one of these films that is a love story at its heart. You know what I mean? And you just love that. I love that ending where the kid takes the picture of Sarah Connor and she looks at it, and what she was thinking at that moment was Reese. That's who she was thinking about, was Reese. So just amazing stuff in this movie. Movie has so much tension. It has so much great exposition while the action's moving forward. That's what They don't stop the action to tell the exposition. It's while it's all happening. The way Reese is telling Sarah everything, and Sarah Connor is fantastic in this. Linda Hamilton's performance is fantastic. The arc she goes on from like almost damsel in distress to just killing this machine at the end when she goes, "You're terminated, fucker." And the way she's telling Reese to get on your feet, soldier, you know, the way she's pushing him, she just has that, she has that instinct in her. She has that soldier in her. You know what I mean? And it's just a great character arc in this. I love Terminator, man. Absolutely love it. But before I give you my number one, guys, here are 5 honorable mentions. Coming in at number 1 is First Blood.
You son of a bitch!
It had to be First Blood, guys. I gave it a lot of thought. I just love Sylvester Stallone. I've been watching this movie ever since I was a kid. It has such a big impact on me. I mean, I can remember being picked on at school a bit, and I would always watch First Blood as this way of just letting my anger out by living through Rambo a bit, because Rambo's bullied in this movie. Rambo's picked on by the police, and it was just something relatable to me. This got me through times of my life. I mean, watching Rocky was like hanging in with my best friend. Watching Rambo was like living vicariously through this character by, like, you know, when I would be in a more, when I had darker feelings, when I had more hatred feelings, when I wanted like to just kick someone's ass when I know I shouldn't, I could watch Rambo and then all those feelings would be suppressed. So this movie just means so much to me. Love the character study, how this is a character study of this soldier coming home and what he's going through with this PTSD and how it's ignored and how he's like this machine that's ready just to come apart. You know what I mean? And this breakdown at the end is so great. I mean, Stallone's performance at the end is absolutely fantastic in this. The way he just implodes, you know what I mean? And seeing Trotman looking at him like he doesn't even know how to handle it. Trotman doesn't even know how to handle what's going on. His best soldier breaking down like a child. You know what I mean? Child crying. And the way he reaches out for Trotman as his only father figure, absolutely amazing. The action in this is amazing, man. Right from when he breaks out of that police station all the way to Trotman's exposition on what we find out about Rambo, the action is amazing. It's more thriller-like. Everything has like a thrill ride, you know what I mean? Breaking out of jail, kicking all the police officers' ass, then getting away on the motorcycle, escaping on the cliff, jumping off the cliff, surviving that, then taking them all out in the forest at night. Probably you take all that together, that one big, long section, gold, man. Just 5 out of 5. Awesomeness. This is my Rambo from this first movie. Very quiet, staring off at things, not cracking jokes like he does in 2 and 3. He became more cartoony. We returned to the character a bit in John Rambo, which is awesome, but this is my Rambo. I just don't think any Rambo movie will ever compare to First Blood. First Blood is just awesome, man. And going from a huge Rocky franchise, and then he got a Rambo franchise, this Stallone, I just love Stallone so much, so it had to be here. First Blood, my favorite 80s action film of all time. Well, what about you guys? Let me know in the comments what your top 10 80s action films are, or just a few. Let us talk some 80s action. I mean, it wasn't just an era of great horror. It was an era of great action films, man. Let's have a great discussion with each other and talk some action. And if you like this video, then watch the other content that I've done. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. You are watching Backtrack Cinema. My name is Jason. I will see you on the next video, and I'll see you in the movies, man. Cheers.
Thank you.